Life doesn't turn heavy all at once. It gathers weight quietly, grain by grain, through memories we never sorted, responsibilities we carried alone, and expectations that grew faster than our strength. One morning, you look at yourself and realize the heaviness didn't come from a single moment. It came from years of being the one who held everything together. And the older we get, the more invisible our storms become. People see your calm face, your steady hands, your quiet endurance, but they don't see the exhaustion beneath it. They don't see the bags of old worries you still tuck under your heart. They don't see how carefully you've been carrying a life that sometimes feels too full. So let me ask you gently, are you tired? Not in your body, deep inside your chest. Buddhist wisdom teaches that we don't lighten life by pushing harder. We lighten life by setting down what no longer needs to be carried. If you're here, something in you is ready, ready to breathe, ready to soften, ready to release. Before we begin, take a slow breath with me. And if this message already touches something true in you, feel free to subscribe or leave a calming word below so our little community of peace can grow. Lesson number 1, you're not your past. There is a gentle truth woven through Buddhist wisdom. Who you once were is not who you are now, and who you are now is not who you must remain. Life is a continual unfolding, a quiet becoming. Every sunrise offers a small rebirth, yet most of us enter the new day still wearing the weight of yesterday as if it were part of our skin. As the years pass, the mind turns into something like an old house, its walls lined with memories, its rooms filled with moments we revisit again and again. Some rooms glow with warmth, carrying the laughter of younger days. Others stay dim, holding regrets we never voiced and choices we wish had gone differently. But here is what we forget. This house is not you. It is simply the place where your memories rest. Too often we confuse the contents of the rooms with the identity of the one who walks through them. We say, I am my mistakes. I am my failures. I am the person who should have done better. And in doing so, we turn temporary experiences into permanent labels. Yet no moment in your life, no matter how heavy, was meant to be your name. As we grow older, the past tends to follow us like a shadow stretching across time. Sometimes it's because we never learned how to put things down. Imagine holding a bag filled with stones. At first, you grip it tightly, thinking you're strong enough to carry it for a while. But minutes turn into hours, hours into years, and the weight becomes so familiar that you don't even realize you could let it go. This is what emotional memory does. It clings softly, settles like dust on old furniture, and unless we pause long enough to notice, it slowly shapes the way we breathe, speak, and see ourselves. But Buddhism reminds us of something liberating. The past is not a prison. It is a teacher. And teachers are meant to guide us, not chain us to their lessons. You are not the heartbreak that wounded you. You are not the silence you kept. You are not the choices made with a younger, more frightened mind. You are the awareness that grew from them. You are the compassion that blossomed because of them. What happened may live in your memory, but it does not get to live as your identity unless you allow it. Letting go does not mean pretending nothing ever hurt. It means acknowledging that pain without letting it run your life. It means opening the windows of that inner house and letting the stale air move out. It means whispering to yourself, I don't have to carry this anymore. You deserve to step into the present without dragging every yesterday behind you. And today can be the day you finally begin to set the bag down. Lesson number 2. Everything is changing. Even you. Buddhist wisdom teaches that everything in this world moves, shifts, and transforms. Nothing stays the same, not even the parts of life we once believed were unshakable. Impermanence isn't an abstract concept meant only for monks or philosophers. It reveals itself quietly in the everyday rhythm of our lives. You can see it in the way a tree sheds its leaves without argument, trusting that new ones will appear when the season turns. You can see it in the empty room your children once filled with noise and laughter. You can see it in your reflection, softened by time, lined with the traces of a life fully lived. Change is not a punishment. Change is simply how the world keeps breathing. But when you grow older, the silence that follows change can feel unsettling. The house becomes quieter. The calendar empties. The responsibilities that once defined your days loosen their grip. A space opens up, and for many people, that space feels like a loss. They whisper to themselves, "I used to be stronger. I used to be needed. I used to matter." These thoughts are heavy because they drag your worth into the past, as though your value existed only in who you were, not in who you are now. Yet Buddhism gently reminds us, your worth has never been tied to a role, a title, or how many people depended on you. It is inherent, untouched by circumstance. Impermanence is not here to take away your meaning. It is here to reveal a new one. When life becomes quieter, when the familiar noise fades, what remains is not emptiness. It is space, a spaciousness that allows something fresh to grow, something that couldn't have survived when your life was too crowded, too busy, too loud. Think of a garden. When one flower withers, the soil doesn't mourn, it rests, preparing itself for whatever will bloom next. The space left behind isn't a wound, it's an invitation. Change asks us to soften, not cling. Imagine standing beside a river. You can try to force the water to stay, but it will slip through your hands no matter how tightly you hold. Life flows in the same way. When you resist its movement, the current feels harsh and overwhelming. But when you allow yourself to move with it, to let the river carry you rather than fight it, something surprising happens. The journey becomes gentler, not because the river changed, but because you did. So let this be a quiet reassurance. You are not less because life around you has changed. You are simply entering a new season, one with its own beauty, its own purpose, its own gifts. And just as the world never stops evolving, neither do you. Your life is still unfolding. Your story is still being written. And there is more ahead of you than you may realize. Lesson number 3. Letting go of emotional luggage. Non-attachment is often misunderstood. Many people hear the word and believe it means shutting down emotionally, distancing yourself from the people you love, or living without care. But in Buddhist wisdom, non-attachment is not coldness, it is clarity. It is the ability to hold life gently instead of gripping it so tightly that your own heart begins to ache. It is loving without losing yourself, giving without draining your spirit, and staying open without allowing every wind to shake your peace. As we age, the roles we once carried with such devotion begin to shift. The identity of the strong one, the caregiver, the reliable person, slowly fades as life rearranges itself. But because we spent years tying our sense of self to these roles, their disappearance can feel like a piece of us is missing. In truth, it isn't you that is missing. It is simply an old version of you that life is asking you to release. Suffering often arises not from the change itself, but from our refusal to loosen our grip on what no longer fits. It's like holding onto a rope that keeps pulling. The tighter you hold, the deeper the burn. Emotional baggage works the same way. Resentments, expectations, disappointments, old versions of ourselves. We carry them as though they are obligations, yet they weigh us down more than we realize. Picture a string stretched too tight inside your chest. Each unresolved feeling, each outdated identity, each expectation from others pulls on that string until even the smallest tension becomes painful. Or imagine trying to embrace a new moment while holding on to the shadow of who you used to be. You can't fully step forward if one hand is still gripping yesterday. So how do we release what weighs us down? Gently, kindly, consistently. One simple practice that monks teach is the breath of letting go. But instead of using formal language, try this in your own heart. On the inhale, whisper internally, "I allow things to be as they are." On the exhale, whisper, "I free myself from what I can't control." With every breath, feel the string inside you loosen, the shadows fade, the grip soften. Non-attachment isn't something you master overnight. It is something you practice in small moments, whenever you choose peace over pressure, understanding over expectation, spaciousness over emotional clutter. Remember this gentle truth. You don't have to hold everything. You don't have to carry every emotion to its final conclusion. Some things are meant to be acknowledged and then released, like leaves floating downstream. If this teaching feels like something your heart has been waiting to hear, feel free to leave a kind word or subscribe so more people can walk this path of lightness with us. Lesson number 4. Forgiveness, the doorway back to inner peace. Forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood teachings in spiritual life. Many people believe that forgiving someone means excusing what they did, pretending it didn't matter, or allowing the same wounds to happen again. But true forgiveness has nothing to do with the other person. It has everything to do with the weight your own heart has been carrying for far too long. In Buddhism, forgiveness is an inner release, a quiet decision to stop dragging yesterday's pain into today's breath. Think of resentment not as a stone you hold, but as a heavy, water-soaked cloak wrapped around your shoulders. At first, you hardly notice it. You've worn it so long that its heaviness feels normal. But with every step, every memory, every unconscious replay of an old conversation, the cloak becomes heavier. You feel it most at night, when the world grows silent and your mind begins wandering through unfinished chapters. The burden isn't caused by the original wound anymore. It's the constant revisiting, the retelling, the looping of what happened that keeps the pain alive. And without realizing it, you begin to mistake the cloak for your own skin. Forgiveness, then, is simply the moment you decide to take that cloak off. Not because the past was small, but because your heart deserves rest. You cannot rewrite what happened, just as you cannot change the ink in a finished book. But you can choose to gently close the pages, place the book down, and let your hands be free again. Peace comes not from erasing the story, but from refusing to let it dominate every chapter of your life that follows. And perhaps the most difficult form of forgiveness is the one we offer ourselves. As people grow older, they often carry quiet guilt, like a secret kept deep in the chest. Choices they regret, words they wish they could take back, moments where they didn't show up as their best selves. But you made decisions with the understanding you had at the time. You acted from the level of awareness available to you then. How could you have known what you only learned later? Compassion means recognizing that you, too, were learning how to live. Imagine a small lantern flickering in a dark room. When the winds of anger, blame, or shame blow against it, the flame struggles. But when the winds calm, when you finally decide to forgive, the lantern glows steady again. That lantern is your heart. It was never meant to burn under the storms of old emotions forever. Place a hand over your chest and whisper gently, "I release what has been. I free myself to rest." Forgiveness won't change the past, but it will change your relationship with it. And sometimes, that is the only change needed for peace to finally return. Lesson number 5. Finding purpose in the present moment. As the years pass, many people begin to wonder quietly, what is my purpose now? For so long, purpose was tied to doing, raising children, working tirelessly, providing, caring, showing up for everyone who needed you. Life was full, sometimes overwhelmingly so. Then slowly, almost imperceptibly, the noise begins to fade, the schedules open, the responsibilities shift, and what remains is a kind of silence that feels unfamiliar. Some people fear this silence, believing it means their purpose has ended. But in Buddhist wisdom, silence is not an ending. It is an invitation. Purpose has never been about productivity. Purpose is presence. It is the ability to meet this moment with awareness, compassion, and sincerity. When life was loud, you didn't have the chance to hear your own heart clearly. But now that the world around you has become gentler, the whisper inside becomes easier to notice. Like a bell that only rings true when everything around it is still, your inner purpose becomes clearer when life offers you room to breathe. And here's something many older adults forget. Your lived experience is a treasure younger generations are desperately searching for. They read books, attend seminars, scroll through endless content, trying to find answers that you already carry in your bones. You have learned through storms. You have endured chapters that would have broken a weaker spirit. You understand things no classroom can teach: patience, resilience, letting go, loving deeply, despite the risks. Even if you never speak these lessons aloud, they radiate from you. Simply being someone who has survived and softened is already a form of guidance in this world. But purpose doesn't always need an audience. Some days, your purpose might be something as simple as nourishing your body with a warm meal. Other days, it might be resting without apology, or stepping outside to feel the sunlight touch your skin. Purpose can look like watering a plant, listening to birdsong, stretching your tired muscles, or allowing yourself to cry without judgment. These small acts are not insignificant. They are moments of alignment, moments where you choose to be present rather than lost in worry or regret. Think of a garden. Flowers can only bloom when the soil beneath them is allowed to rest. In the same way, this season of your life may be less about producing and more about blossoming internally. Or imagine a quiet temple bell. It rings most clearly not when struck hardest, but when the air around it is still. Your purpose now is to live with that same clarity, to allow the simplicity of each moment to speak to you. You do not need a grand mission to matter. You do not need to be needed in the old ways to be meaningful. Your purpose is here, in your breath, in your awareness, in the gentle way you choose to meet your life now. The world may not see it, but your heart does, and that is enough. Lesson number 6, allowing peace to arrive, the art of moving with life. There comes a moment in every life, often later than we expect, when we realize that peace isn't something we chase down. It isn't a reward we earn by solving every problem or controlling every outcome. Peace is something we allow, a guest that enters only when we stop blocking the door with our worries, our resistance, and our need to make life obey our plans. The quiet truth at the heart of Buddhist wisdom is this: life softens the moment we do. Think of your life as a river. When you fight the current, when you push against what is, hoping the water will turn back for you, it feels fierce and unforgiving. The struggle exhausts you. But the river was never the enemy. The suffering came from the battle. The moment you loosen your body and let yourself float, the same current that once frightened you becomes a gentle guide. Acceptance works the same way. It doesn't mean you approve of everything that happened or everything you're facing. It simply means you choose not to make your own heart heavier by resisting what you cannot change. Many people misunderstand acceptance as giving up, but acceptance is not surrendering your power. It is reclaiming it. It is the quiet inner saying, "This is what's here right now. I don't have to like it, but I don't have to torture myself over it either." That small shift is what allows peace to slip back into your life, like a soft wind entering through an open curtain. The situation may remain the same, but the suffering decreases because you are no longer tightening your grip around the struggle. Picture yourself as a small boat on a wide sea. For years you've been rowing tirelessly, believing that if you stop, everything will fall apart. But now, in this stage of life, perhaps the truest wisdom is learning how to drop the anchor at sunset, to let the waves rock you instead of trying to conquer them. There is a kind of peace that appears only when we allow ourselves to rest, to trust that the sea knows what it's doing. You can practice this in the simplest way. Sit comfortably, let your shoulders fall, unclench your jaw, take a slow breath in and whisper inwardly, "I make room for what is." Then exhale and say, "I release what I cannot hold." With each breath, the tightness that has lived in your chest for years begins to loosen. You stop fighting the wind. You let the curtain lift. You let the air in. Peace doesn't depend on the world becoming perfect. It depends on you giving yourself permission to stop carrying everything alone. And as you soften, even just a little, you may discover that life has always been trying to hold you. You only needed to stop resisting long enough to feel it. As we come to the end of this journey, let these teachings settle gently in your heart. You don't need to become someone different to deserve peace. You only need to give yourself permission to breathe, to release, to begin again in your own quiet way. You have walked through storms and seasons, and yet you are still here, softer, wiser, and more open than you realize. If today's words brought you comfort or clarity, I invite you to stay connected. Leave a reflection below, share this video with someone who may need its warmth, or subscribe so you can continue receiving gentle wisdom each week. Your presence here nurtures this growing community of peace. May you be well. May you be light. May you be free from the weight you no longer need to carry.